I'm Jim Ostrognai, and I work at a company called Salesforce. And before that, I worked at a company called Interactive Intelligence, pretty large software company for Indiana. And that was sold for $1.4 billion in 2016, and just learned a lot there. And before that, I was at Anderson University, and it was a great experience for me. I graduated from Anderson in 1999. Anderson's a great school. It was just the right size for me. I was involved with the intramural program, the women's volleyball team, and then the Tyvus Social Club. As part of this innovation series, I think a lot of people think, hey, how am I going to be an inventor, or what am I going to make? I hear about Nikola Tesla, for instance, and how incredible he was in his career. And in reality, I think that a lot of the best things are coming from teams. For instance, the iPhone. You would think, oh, well, Steve Jobs made the iPhone. He was the guy who stood on stage and got the credit for the iPhone. But in reality, you find that the iPhone was actually made by teams of people. There were people who did the UI, there were people who did the hardware, and they came together and kind of secretly put this together before it was introduced to Steve, because they thought Steve was going to kill the project. My grandfather did some patents, and pretty proud of that. And I guess I kind of learned that you're not just going to be brilliant on your own, you're going to have to work as a team. Innovation to me does break down into two pieces. There's sustaining innovation and disruptive innovation. I think when most people are thinking about innovation, they're thinking about the disruptive, where this great inventor or this person all by themselves came up with this great idea, they get all the credit, they're a hero, and then you wonder, how am I going to do that? How am I going to have that big idea? I want to be smart. I want to sit in my garage and come up with that big idea. In reality, I don't think that's really how it happens. There is a really great author, Christensen. He's written The Innovator's Dilemma, The Innovator's DNA, and some other books. He basically says there's disruptive innovation, and then there's sustaining innovation. And I even use this talk track when I'm working with my teams. So I have teams that are actually working on this very disruptive innovation, and that would be, hey, we're going to replace horses with a car. I mean, think about how big that was and how that really changed society. Sustaining innovation might be, look at your iPhone, and the iPhone 12 came out. And at this point, does anyone care? I know there are people who care, but the difference between another camera, I mean, come on, it's already got 3 or 4 cameras on it. These are things that people do to keep up, but they're just not really amazing changes. So you got to think about, well, where's my innovation going to come from? And sustaining is fine. A lot of people just do sustaining innovation every day, and they feel like, well, I don't do any innovation. How am I going to invent something? How am I going to be like, Nikola Tesla? And in reality, by taking a couple different things and putting them together, you're doing sustaining innovation. So I think we can all do it. And again, I really believe the best ideas come from teams and working in a team, because there's lots of great ideas. The execution is the hard part. How is this actually going to happen? How is it going to be used, and who's going to buy it? The core values are very important. So having honesty, integrity, people need to be able to trust you so you can build really good, high-performing teams. Really important in software. The teams and the way that you work together is incredibly important. I would say as a leader, you need to invest in yourself, and you don't just take it for granted that you got this opportunity. You need to keep learning, you need to know the leadership styles, and always be reading and being mindful of everyone on your team, and actually being able to change your style for each person on the team, what makes them most effective. I stay inspired by reading. I try to get through as many books as I possibly can. If we just are always interacting with the same group of people, eventually we'll kind of know what they know. They all influence us in a way. If you can read a book and have at least a one-way conversation with someone who may have 30 or 40 years of experience, and there's just a couple things you can get from that interaction, that's huge. That's something that makes you a better person. So I get a lot of good ideas from reading books, and even things that aren't even in the software industry at all. The way to avoid burnout is really to have some other hobbies and things outside of technology. So, I do coaching, try to stay fit, do things with my family, reading. We have to have other hobbies. If you're always on, you're always worrying about work, you really do have to learn how to kind of compartmentalize your work. The president of this university, has had some amazing achievements, John Pistol. And I had a great conversation with him, and we were talking just about, again, we're just people, we're average people, and we've had great experiences or opportunities, but people, look up to people's positional power. And, what can I do with my position to, make someone, motivate something or do something, right? So after I leave, someone else will be vice president of engineering at Salesforce, and I'll just be Jim Ostrognai. So if I can meet with people and motivate them and get them excited about their career, that's something I'm going to do. So at Salesforce, one of our large projects that we accomplished this last 2 years was something called Hyperforce. Hyperforce allows us, again, to take public cloud, Amazon, Azure, Google, the big players, and run our entire platform on them. So in a way, it's like the power company. I can change my power provider depending on what the prices are or what kind of services are available in different parts of the world. And for customers right now, governments and things are now dictating residency of data, and the security requirements are just very, very intense. Being able to localize and have your software in the language of that customer is really important. So for Salesforce, it's a huge advantage that we can go just about anywhere in the world. Any of these, big cloud providers, Alibaba's even one we're working with, and we can provide the Salesforce platform to those people. One of the big changes in the software industry was going from software that you purchase and you own, and that's a huge capital expense for a lot of companies, and it's not something that they're a lot of times very good at. So, in the wheelhouse there of machine learning, for instance, are you really going to have a bunch of computer science, data scientists on your staff? If you can leverage SaaS, it's more like a power bill, or it's an ongoing expense. So software companies like this because it also allows them to have smooth revenue predictions, and investors like that as well. It's very important to learn, how to use software as a service as well. It will make you very marketable. Learning Salesforce software is it's definitely something I would recommend. And we have something called Trailhead, and that's free online. Anyone can learn about it. A big change from the industry from when I graduated from Anderson would be even having exposure to the software was very difficult because it was very expensive, so you didn't even get to use it. And now with SaaS, students can learn how to use all of this software and get those skills and start a business and say, I already know how to use Salesforce. When we're talking about machine learning, it's really about making predictions. There's many aspects of machine learning, but we want to be able to make these predictions. And the problem that you have is that it's a complex adaptive system, the real world. So you can try to make models, and this has been a problem for a long time in econ. They try to build these economic models on how things are going to function and behave. But in reality, it's a complex adaptive system, so you're never going to get it right. But there are things that machine learning is really good for. Who wants to actually open 5,000 files and decide if it's a cat or not? Those are things that machine learning is very good for. We have to keep all our skill sets up. With this technology, there's what I would call more layers and layers of abstraction, which just means things that are done for you, you don't need to understand those complexities anymore. So we all drive cars, but I couldn't go in the car and fix, a problem with the computer in the car. Someone else knows how to do that. Even our mechanics today wouldn't fix that problem. They would replace the part. So I think it's given us all, there's goods and bads, and we do have to keep up. We have to be mindful of the changes. There's a known thing in the software industry, and other industries, Imposter, syndrome, where you're like, I don't know if I really should be here. I don't have these great ideas. What am I doing? And I think everyone questions themselves, and it's okay. And you just need to do your best. And no, you don't have to be crazy brilliant. Just coming in and working hard every day and being honest and trying to move the company forward is really what's required. And a lot of people, I would say, are just very fortunate with circumstances that they got a certain position. And I think it's really okay, and everyone should feel fine about leveraging their personal networks. If your uncle is a janitor somewhere and you want to work there, that's fine. I think sometimes people have pride, like, well, I don't want to try to get a job where my mom works or something like that. Go for it, do it. One of the things too, I think I've learned in my career is that we're all just people. And, depending if you're 18 or, you're 65, you're still just a person and you still have insecurities about who you are. And you see people and you say, wow, that person's very successful. They must have it all together and they have all the answers. And it's not true. We're always questioning who we are. And, I think that that's something people need to hear. And it's definitely okay to fail. And I've had certification tests that I've failed and totally bombed, and I just had to regroup and decide, now how am I gonna get over this challenge? I thought I was prepared. What am I gonna do this time? And I just think that's such a great message for everyone to hear.